Mic check, mic check. Auto Coins, what's up? John, Prax, Mike, welcome in, welcome in. Zane, hello. We're right on time here. Let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody, and welcome in. Happy Father's Day to those who are dads out there. I hope that you got some time to relax today and enjoy the beautiful Sunday afternoon. We've got some good setups going into this week, despite SPY coming down on Friday. I think that there are some really solid setups that are showing relative strength, a few setups that are running off of news. But before we get into those, I must tell you that I am not a financial advisor. So today I'm giving you my entire trading plan for tomorrow. I'm also going to be talking about some side charts for the rest of the week, but this does not serve as financial advice. All right, all mentions in this stream are literally just my opinion, but I wouldn't be putting my opinion out there if I didn't think that it was a good opinion. So for those of you that are new, welcome to the stream. I'm going to be breaking down my top stock picks for day trading. So I am an options day trader. I'm going to be talking about some setups that I think have potential for the upcoming week, and then I'm going to be taking charting requests at the end of the stream. So I see a few of you are already calling out some stocks in the chat there. I will get to those, but towards the end of the stream, right? So I'm going to give you my breakdowns first, and we'll get to the charting requests. So I'm glad to have you all here. Press the like button for me, show me some love, and let's get started. The first one on my watch list for tomorrow will be Airbnb, ABNB. All right, this is forming what's known as a range on the daily chart time frame. So I will always start my analysis either on the daily or the weekly, and that's just because I like to see what the overall trend is. So here's the overall trend for Airbnb. It pulled down to these lows, found some support, rebounded, and it's kind of been on this uptrend. So there's a little bit of a dip here, but it was a higher low that was made, and then we started that uptrend towards the top side again. So it's been having some trouble trying to break over this $154 price point. Going back to what I was originally about to say was this is forming what's known as a range on the daily chart time frame. So it has a very clear area of support right around 148, and resistance is pretty clearly placed around 154. But there was a little bit of this wick had pushed up to about the 155 price point. That EMA that you see there, that green dotted line, that's my 50 EMA. That level, as well as the blue level right here, that's your 200 EMA. These levels can act as points of support or as resistance, and in this case, we're seeing that 50 EMA act as a level of resistance. So what I'm looking for going into tomorrow's session on Airbnb is a break of 155. I want to see this break over 155, break over the 50 EMA, break outside of this range that it's trading in, and give us another momentum move to the top side, something like this or something like this that we've seen in the past, right? It's kind of chopped around here for long enough, and I'm looking for the directional break going into tomorrow. Now, because it had pulled back to like 152, this 152 area, if we do not get a break on Airbnb tomorrow, that's all right. That just means that I won't be taking my position. So the only way that I'm taking a trade on Airbnb is if it breaks out over 155. If it does not do that, there's no trade for me on this particular setup because I'm only interested in seeing this push up. I think that if it breaks 155, it has the potential to run to 160 to test this 200 EMA from the bottom side, right? That's going to be kind of your next point of resistance. But look at this drop down here on the daily chart time frame. That happened fairly quickly, and it might have been a little bit overdone, a little bit over exaggerated. Oftentimes when a stock gets pretty far off from this 200 EMA, what it likes to do is pull back to test it either as a support or as a resistance. So a good example of that is right here, right, where it pushed up pretty far off the 200 EMA, pulled back, tested as support, pushed back up, right? Got far extended, pulled back, tested as support, and then pushed back up. Pulled back, tested as support, pushed back up. So now that it's trading below it, what we could see or expect if it breaks over this 50 is that it pushes up to test it as not support, but resistance. Right, so that's what I'm looking for in Airbnb, is just a simple break of this range, a break over the 50 EMA, and a run up towards the 200 EMA trend line. Or, trend line. Okay, so those of you that are just joining in, welcome in. I'm talking about my top stock picks for tomorrow. I'm just breaking down kind of my trading plan. I will be taking charting requests, but I'm not doing that until the end of the stream. All right, so this is the first one on our list, Airbnb. The second one on the list, I think without a doubt, is going to be Tesla. We've been watching this one. It's been setting up this kind of pennant pattern here on the daily chart time frame, and we may hopefully see a breakout this week, or breakdown, depending on what it wants to do. So let me draw out the formation for you first. I'm drawing a trend line connecting the low to this dip to this dip. That's going to give you our lower trend line. Then I'm going to connect a trend line across the tops of these candles, kind of loosely there, connecting this point to this point and kind of to this point. So it almost looks like we're getting this breakout right now, doesn't it? The only thing about trend lines like this is that, you know, this can be manipulated to look like it's not breaking out yet, and it could be manipulated to look like it's already breaking out. So you have to be careful when you're drawing diagonal trend lines on your charts, but you only need 2 points to connect for a trend line to be valid. Of course, the more times that it hits, the more valid it is. So we have actually 4 points kind of connected right here. Either way, it is looking like a pennant pattern that's shaping up. So we have a few things going on here. Number one, it's still trading over that 200 EMA, that blue line, which to me means that on the daily chart time frame, Tesla is still technically in an uptrend. Even though it's been coming down recently, the overall trend, taking into account all of this data, the overall trend is still up. So this does look like what's known as a bear pennant, right? That's kind of like a bear pennant formation, but that doesn't mean that it has to break down. And with it testing the top side of this resistance line, it in fact almost looks like it's about to break out. So we've been kind of mentioning this in the past because we've been looking for it to make a higher high. So on the way down, it's been making all these lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. And if we get a break over these this peak right here, what is that, around 635, 636, if we get a break of this peak, then we have a few things going on. We would have, one, a break of this downward trend line. Two, we would have a break of this peak, giving us a higher high, kind of breaking this downward momentum. And three, we would have a reclaim of the 50 EMA on the daily chart time frame, and that's fairly significant. You could even go a little further and say that we would have a true bounce off of the 200 EMA, validating it as support, as well as a bounce off of the $600 whole number, validating that as a support. So I'm bullish on Tesla, especially if it breaks over 636. Now, if it fails to hold 600 as a support from where it's at currently, and we do indeed see a breakdown, then I might change my bias and start to look for a short position somewhere, especially if we start failing to hold the 200 EMA as a support. But as of right now, it's green. It's showing relative strength against the market. So that's what I'm looking for, is a break of 636. Now, going into tomorrow's session, that's kind of the ideal scenario. But because it's trading down here around 623, to take a trade up here at 636 would be a little unlikely, right? We would kind of be chasing that move up. So I'm just planning to take my position as soon as we break over this high, which would put us right at around 630. I think I'm going to round it up. It'd be 629 to 630, but I think I'm going to round it up and set my trigger at 630. So a break of 630 would be my entry point. With the understanding that 635 or 636 is a likely level of resistance, and depending on where I'm at in my position, I may consider to take profits around that area. But if we definitely get a break over that price point, I think there's no problem for Tesla to run up to around 650. So this is this is probably one of my top watches going into tomorrow, provided that it opens up above 620. All right, that's going to be the level to hold for this scenario to remain in play. So it needs to open over 620 We're looking at a long position over 630. Take profit area is going to be around 636, and then above that, maybe we can look at 650 as a possible price target. Tesla's known to make bigger moves like that, especially if it gets some momentum and some direction behind it. We could see kind of like a run on this like we have with NVIDIA recently. All right, this is number 2 on the watch list, Tesla long idea over 630. PayPal, number 3 on my watch list for tomorrow. So PayPal we have been patiently waiting on. We actually took it long when it broke over, when it broke out of this range right here that it had been shaping up. We took it long on this day, and then I think we traded it another day or two on this run up, and then decided to let it do its thing, because what we were recognizing was, given these peaks back here, these 2 peaks and then these 2 peaks, we knew that there was going to be resistance around $280. And so I didn't trade this on Friday. I totally missed this trade, but had some very large volume coming in, which means that there's a lot of eyes on this stock. We haven't seen this kind of volume except for around these earnings times, right? That volume on average is pretty low, and then we got a big break over the $280 price point, right, which is our resistance point shown here on the daily chart. And we got a little bit of news coming in. I believe the news was that they had made some changes to their published rates. Whatever it was bullish news, and investors liked it, right? So the stock's pushing up. Here's the deal on PayPal. It needs to hold 280 as a support from here. So I'm not interested in a trade on PayPal if it breaks below $280. So it needs to hold over 280. I'm looking for the continuation play right over this high, right? So it'll be a break over 286.5 or 287, depending on what the pre-market price action looks like. And I think that this has potential to make the run up to 300. Maybe not in one day, but if not tomorrow, then the next day, right? Provided that the momentum to the top side continues. That's going to be our big resistance point overhead. Then above that, of course, 309 will be a level of resistance. I think it's probably also worth mentioning that this little peak right here might give you a little bit of resistance around 293 or 294. But from where it's at, I'm looking to take a long position at 287. We'll just round it up. 287 up to probably 294, and then above that 300, and then 309. Right, so it's just a continuation play following the break of the $280 resistance point on the daily, looking for this momentum to continue after the news drop. Got it? That was number 3 on our main chart watch list for tomorrow. Number 4, you guys probably know this one, AMD. It's, in my opinion, not done following this run. It did actually make another new high, but it did not sustain those levels. So it kind of had a sideways day, which is something to be expected given this run right here. This was a beautiful, beautiful trade that we were kind of able to capitalize on following the Google announcement, right? The news announcement. So it was a break over this downward trend line. There's your breakout, big volume coming in. We had one sideways day. It may still need a little bit of time to cool off. AMD doesn't normally make those larger types of moves, right, without some sort of pullback, right? You see a large move and then a little bit of pullback, a big move and then one day of consolidation. Larger move, a pullback, right? So it happens. This is our kind of pullback or consolidation right here, so I want to keep AMD on watch over 86. I don't care what it does underneath 86. I think that it should hold from here. I think that it should hold either 83 or 82.5 as a support, given that this was the old resistance, should validate as new support. It should hold up over that price point if the move is going to continue up. But I'm just looking for a break over 86 for this to continue. Now, if we don't get that, if we do not get that trade on PayPal where it makes a new high, and we don't get that trade on AMD where it makes a new high, and we don't get that trade on Airbnb where it makes a new high, keep those alerts set at the levels that I'm talking about right now, because just because they don't break out tomorrow doesn't mean that those aren't potential trades in the future, right? Unless it does something crazy, like totally retraces this move down and just falls back down to like $80, then that level obviously at 86 isn't really relevant. But if it just moves sideways and doesn't really make a new high, but doesn't really make a new low, well then 86 is still going to be relevant for Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, right? So make sure that you're keeping up with these charts, and then also keeping your alerts set on these charts. So as for my main watch list, I'm watching Airbnb, ABNB, Tesla, TSLA, PayPal, PYPL, and AMD. Those will be my 4 main stocks that I'm watching tomorrow. That may change in the morning given the pre-market moves. But as of right now, that's where we're at. So if you're just tuning in late and you missed the breakdown on those, this stream will be up for the next 24 hours, and you can just simply rewatch it once we're done live streaming. Let's talk about some side charts while I'm doing that. Post up some charts in the chat section that you want me to review. I just ask that you don't call out random stocks, and don't call out penny stocks. I don't really trade penny stocks, so I don't feel like analyzing them. Send me a sentence or two explaining why you think that stock has potential, and then give me a breakdown on it. Maybe like a support and resistance point, or what your plan is for that stock, and I'll take a look at it. All right, side charts. We've got what, 5? I think I've got 5 of them here. Number 1 is Workhorse. I really like this setup on Workhorse. I just don't know if tomorrow is going to be the day that it breaks out or not. So that's why it's a side chart. It's pulling back pretty heavily right here, but it's kind of stopped making these lows and started to make trade inside days. So here was a large day, then we had an inside day, then we had another inside day that was smaller. So an inside day is just basically when the candle of the entire candle is inside the candle here, right? So this is kind of, think of it like a pressure point building up, and it seems like it's going to burst either way, because directional moves happen following periods of either consolidation or range trading. So what we are looking for on Workhorse will be a break of this downward trend line, a break over one of these highs, right? So if it started to, we're looking for higher highs to be made. It's having a lot of trouble closing over 15, so ideally I think a break over like 15.5 would give us a move up towards 16, and depending on how much momentum's behind it, we might see a run larger than that, right? Maybe up to 16.5 or 17. It almost looks like a bull flag here forming up on the daily chart. If I back that up a little bit, you can see there's a lot of room here for Workhorse to make up if it can get back up towards the $20 price point. But we're going to take it one step at a time. It needs to get back over 16, needs to reclaim that 200 EMA, get back over 16, break the resistance at $18, trade up close to 20, and then over 20. I think we can see some real moves happen, but I don't know if all of that happens this week. This is really shaping up nicely, though. This is kind of what you want to see during a pattern formation, is lower volume on the slight pullback, right? It's not totally retracing the move. It's trying to hold some level of support here, and we're building up. We're kind of bottlenecking here and building up some pressure. So looking for a break over 15.5. Keep that alert set there. If this opens up anywhere near 15.5 tomorrow morning, I'm putting it on the main chart watch list without a doubt. This looks like a really good setup to me, but it needs to get over 15 first. Snapchat is number 2 on the side chart watch list. This one has been range trading on the daily for quite some time. We're looking at what, 1, 2, 3 months now, 3.5 months here of consolidation. It's a wide range between 48 and 65, but I mean, this resistance is very clear. I don't think that I need to highlight anything here for you to be able to see that resistance line that I have drawn, right? How relevant that resistance line is. It almost looks like a miniature cup and handle forming here, and then it just failed to break out. So it pulled back and is now retesting that level again. Because it tested it and pulled back once more, I want to keep this as a side chart. I don't think I'm going to put this on the main chart watch list because I mean, me personally, I really don't care if Snapchat trades all the way back down to 48. I don't care what it does underneath 65 or $66. But the moment that it gets over those two price points, I'm really interested in taking a trade on this because that's kind of, it's seemingly where the momentum will pick back up. So over 60, I think definitely over 66, a run to 68 is possible, maybe even up to 70. And then we could start talking about a run up to 73 from there. But needs to get over 65 first. So what I have done is I've set two alerts, one at 65, one at 66. The one at 65 serves as a pre-alert, basically letting me know that I need to go back and look at Snapchat. And the alert at 66 is telling me that I should really consider taking a position on the stock. All right. So Snapchat over 65 and 66 are where my alerts are set at for the week, and we will be watching that over those two price points if it can get there. Netflix, this has been one that has been thrown to the wayside, even by me for quite some time. So big gap down from earnings, failed to hold the 200 EMA, push back up, push back down. A lot of nothing going on here, right? It's rather choppy, actually. But what I do like is that it kind of reminds me of Tesla in a way, where Tesla was doing all of this consolidation at around $600 and then is possibly going to be picking a direction for this week. Netflix reminds me of that same scenario where it's chopping around at $500 and seems like it wants to pick a direction for this week. So this is another range trade with support around 490, resistance up here at 505. A break of 505 would be a break of the range. It would be a break of the $500 whole number. It would be a break of the 200 and the 50 EMA. And there's room for this to run at least up to 510, maybe even 515. When it gets over 520, then we have the rest of this gap here that can be filled. So there is resistance at 515, just kind of basing that off of this price action here. There is resistance around 620. Literally just basing that off of this wick, and then above that, big gap to fill. So Netflix, I'm watching this over 505, and we'll leave it at that. SPCE, part of the kind of growth stock, Wall Street bets mentions, meme stocks. I don't know what category you'd throw this in, but this looks like a bull flag to me. Bull flag forming on lower volume, looking for the big volume spike and the big breakout. That's what I'm looking for here. There is a gap just overhead. That's going to be right around what, 39, almost, let's just say $40. So there's a gap around $40 with room up to about $42. But the resistance that is most relevant to where we're trading at right now is going to be $38. I can just draw a trend line right there. And you can see that none of these daily candles have closed over 38. We've had a couple of times where it's broken over but didn't hold up. A couple of times where it's tested 38 and then came right back down. So now we're creeping back up to $38. I want to keep an alert set right there. If this one reminds me of Workhorse, right? If it opens up near 38, I think I'm going to just go ahead and put it on the watch list because a breakout move on this after a period of consolidation like that could be a larger move that we've been waiting for, especially if we get this type of volume coming back into the stock, right? Larger volume into the stock on the breakout move might send us all the way up to 40. There is going to be resistance there. Above that, look for 42 to be your next resistance point. So SPCE, set alerts at 38. I feel like I'm missing one. I am. Last one. Okay, Roku. This one, a little bit of a, kind of a messy chart, to be honest. A little bit of a fake out here. A double fake out, actually. It faked out like it was going to break this pennant pattern and go long, and then it came right back down looking like it was going to break down, and then got saved and went right back up. So yeah, very interesting charting here, I guess. I just left this pattern here because I'm like, this thing's still trying to figure out what it wants to do. But the fact that it's back up to these highs, that actually made a new high, looks really good to me. And if I drew a resistance line where we're at right now, all the way back to these price points, this resistance is very relevant. You see the 370 resistance, all of this resistance, all of this resistance, most recently a resistance point, and then we're back to that same exact price point again. It wouldn't surprise me to see Roku make a $15 move in one go. It's very possible for this stock, but I think you will see some resistance around $380. So this will be a long idea over 370. It's going to be a side chart watch for me though, because all that I'm looking for is for this to continue. And given the move that it's recently made, I don't know if it will break over this resistance point going into tomorrow, right? Does that make sense? Like, it's had 2 large green days in a row kind of recovering and recovering up to a resistance point. So a move tomorrow where it rejected and came down or even moved sideways, it wouldn't surprise me. That's why I'm setting this as a side chart, but it'll be a side chart watch over 370, because if we get that break over, there is a potential play for this to run up to about 380, and then from there we might see 400 in play later this week. All right, so just keep your alerts set at $370, and if you get a break over, there is a potential play there. So my side charts are WKHS over 15.5, SNAP over 65, Netflix over 505, SPCE over 38, and then Roku over 370. If you're just tuning into the stream, I've already talked about my main chart watch list. That's going to be Airbnb, Tesla, PayPal, and AMD. I will let you take the time to re-watch this stream after I end the stream to catch the beginning and see the breakdown on those stocks. All right, let's get to your questions. By the way, if you missed the beginning, happy Father's Day, for one, and two, thanks for being here. Thanks for spending your time with me, with your trade daddy and not your real daddy. You guys are awesome, and girls are awesome. All right, who's mentioning charts here? Somebody said, when I get my chance, will I share my opinion on NVIDIA? Sure. It's way overbought. It's way overbought, way overdone. I mean, who knows? It can continue up, because I was looking at this at 700 and I was like, okay, it's overdone. I mean, if it continues to push, I think it might grind up, but I don't see it making a very large move up. And it did that, right? It actually grinded up to like 720 and had a few days where it chopped around. And then I don't know what happened, 2 big breakout days back to back, and this thing printed brand new highs. I mean, I don't know. Like, to me, it is definitely overbought, in my opinion. But now it's really looking like this could be the point where it reverses, because this candlestick formation here, this is known as a shooting star candlestick. So this is a reversal candlestick. It's identified by 2 things. One, it's identified when it's at the top of an uptrend. So this is your uptrend, this is the very top, and this is your candlestick formation. 2, it's formed with a long upper wick and a small lower body. So long upper wick, small lower body. What that's telling you is that the price did push up to the highs, but the sellers were stepping in at that price point and drove it all the way back down. It's only confirmed by the next day, and this is remember, it's a likely reversal candlestick, so the next day confirming this move should be red, which means that if you're a short bias trader, you might want to look at taking a short below like 740 or something on NVIDIA, but I would just be careful, because I mean, there's a lot of momentum running this thing up, right? A lot of volume coming in, pushing it to the top side. I know it's running on the on news, so being short on something like this and trying to pick the top is just as bad as going long on something that's dropping. It's like trying to catch a falling knife. But you do have that reversal candlestick forming. So as long as you can identify a place to put your stop loss at, if you're taking this short, then you might be okay. And I would probably say that 750 being a whole number is a good place to place a stop loss, right? Whole numbers are natural points of support and resistance in the market. You're going to see a little bit of hesitation right there at the $700 whole number price point. You're going to see a little hesitation right there at 650, right? And you're going to see a little bit of hesitation here at 750. So whole numbers are 600, 750, 700, 750. Coincidentally, that's kind of where we got, a little bit of sideways movement before the next moves up. And I think that if you were going short on NVIDIA, given the fact that it's forming a shooting star possible reversal candlestick at the all-time highs, that a good place to place your stop would be 750, because this would be a low-risk play to the top side for the potential with a high reward. I think just as fast as it went up, it could come down twice as fast, right? Stairs up, elevator down. But given the news, I would just be a little cautious, maybe not overextend your stay on something like that. As for taking this long, that's not an option for me. It's too overdone. I wouldn't touch it. If you didn't get in on one of these dips down here, you missed the move, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is, right? It happens. Don't be mad about it. There's always other things that'll take off and give you opportunities like that. But yeah, if you're not in on something like this, just don't chase it up. That would be my opinion. Somebody said, how do I place my trend lines like that without having to drag it to size? So there's two trend line methods. You have this, what's called price level. So you just click it and double click, and it'll go all the way across your screen. The other trend line is called the trend line, and that's where you can drag it to whatever you want. Learn your brokerage. If you do not know how to use Thinkorswim, I really recommend that you call them and ask them to demo their platform for you. They have the best customer service. I think their customer service is unparalleled. That is why I stick with them. They will literally sit down for 30 minutes with you for free and answer any questions that you have regarding their platform. They will demo their entire thing for you. Do I go live during trading? Yes, I go live twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays with the Discord server. I do not do it on YouTube. So if you want to trade live with me, click the link in the description. I think there's a description here. It's linked off to my Discord. Join the server and I'll see you there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sports Center 2K. Yeah, we already talked about Roku. So I'm not going to break that one down again. AV Sid is mentioning Amazon. Let's talk about this, because Prime Day is coming up, right? When is Prime Day? Tomorrow, I think. Is it tomorrow or the 23rd? I think it's tomorrow. I'd have to double check on that. So Sid's saying Amazon is range trading off of Friday's 1-day 5-minute chart time frame. So if you're using 5-minute chart time frame, Sid's saying that this is a range with support at 3470 and resistance at around, let's just say 3500, right? The whole number. So you're looking at breakout over 3500 with support around 30. Okay, so your support is a little tight. I would just place it at 3470 just to be safer. Plus it's where you saw a little bit of a dip here, the pre-market low, and then the run up. And then yes, you're right. 3500 would be the resistance. So I'm not too concerned about the 3507. That's just like a little peek out over and kind of like a fake out, I guess. 3500 is the big level to watch. So I would be bullish over 35, bearish below 3470. It is Amazon Prime Day week. I'm not exactly sure when that day. I think it's tomorrow. I'd have to double check. But anyways, I want you to be cautious, because this may be a case of like buy the rumor, sell the news, right? So Amazon offers like a bunch of discounts, and people go on Amazon and buy stuff, and it might be one of those things where they do a news drop later on and say, yeah, we had a record number of sales today compared to last year, and our numbers are up by 30% or whatever. and then the stock sells off, and you're sitting there thinking, why is that? That's bullish news. If you have record sales, why is the stock selling off? Well, look at what the stock's been doing all the way up to this price point. It's literally been running this whole way up. So this may be a scenario where it's, buy the rumor, and then when the news drops, sell the news. Buy the rumor, sell the news. Happens all the time. So given this run right here, I mean, if you're long over 3,500 for a day trade, that's good, but you need to recognize that there is resistance here at 3,550. That also is going to be your next kind of natural whole number, right? Those levels are real. Those resistance points are real. Given where it's at, I think it might need a day or two to pull back and consolidate. I would look for it to hold maybe 34.25 or 34.50 as support if that is the case, and then wait for the break over 35 for the move up to 35.50. Got it? So, yeah, keep your alerts set over the highs. Be careful chasing though. If this continues to go green, you got to start considering, well, is the risk to reward worth it? Is there more room for it to come down or more room for it to go up? As day traders, I guess we don't really have to worry about that a ton, but yeah, if you're swing trading, absolutely something to consider. Sports Center is asking about Boeing, and you know what? It's all red. I don't know where the bottom is at for Boeing. It's very hard. So you're talking about the fib retracement being at the 61% level. It could be the bottom. I just don't know. Like calling the bottom like this, it would just be a total guess. Yes, fibs can be crazy accurate, but in my opinion, it should have held the 50 EMA as a support, right? Do you remember when we took the trade on AAL actually it was on this particular day right here, we thought that it had pulled back enough and was treating the 50 EMA as a support because we saw some green, and we were like, yeah, break over 23, this looks good for the move up, and it broke over 23 just barely, and we almost took the position, and then look what happened. It just continued to come down. So trying to call the bottom on something, it's a very tough thing to do regardless of what the fib levels are, because if it breaks the 61% retracement level, what do you think it goes to? It just goes down to the next retracement level, right? So with Boeing right now, I think that this, I don't know, it's looking weak to me, but for good reason. It had 4 gap ups on this entire run up, so some sort of pullback is totally expected. If you're looking for this to reverse, what I would do is just stay patient. I think Boeing is probably going to turn around at some point, but it's on a clear downtrend here. I would wait for it to reclaim that 50 EMA and maybe get back up to 245 before I even look at taking a position on this. All right, let's break down. I'm gonna give somebody else a chance here. Let's break down. Sid is asking about Twitter. Does it have a gap to fill? Yes, it does. Twitter has a lot of consolidation here, though. The thing that's been annoying about this gap, and why I really haven't mentioned it this live stream, is because, for one, I've been mentioning this gap for like the longest time. So hopefully a lot of you are already familiar that this gap exists here on Twitter. The second reason why I haven't really been mentioning it as much lately is because it's been doing this super kind of like boring thing where it has just been grinding up into the gap. Like, yes, it's making new highs, but it's not giving us that big pop move that we want. So I don't see a trade here until it gets back up and over the 61. I have my alert set at like 61.60. Till it gets back over these highs, and it's still just moving sideways right now. So, just keep your alert set there. When it goes off, you can look for that to continue to fill the gap. But I think you'd be better off looking at something like Pinterest that is actively moving up into the gap area, right? Pinterest still has like a little bit of this gap area to fill there, and maybe even Snapchat, right? This is not it doesn't have a gap, but it is trading close to a resistance point, and the longer that a stock consolidates or trades within a range on the daily chart or weekly chart time frame, the bigger the breakout will be, which is I think what has a lot of people stoked about this Amazon trade, because look at this weekly chart formation. Look at how long it's been trading within this bigger time frame range, right? You can almost argue that it's been making higher lows on the way up and almost looks like an ascending triangle. But if that's the case, it looks like it would reject and trade within this area a little bit more. But yeah, I think that a breakout of this big range right here, what is this forming over the past almost year now, would give you a larger break and move to the top side. Ray is asking about DK. Can you guys hear me okay? We got disconnected for a second. Okay. All right, good. Yeah, so DKNG, we tried to trade this a few times over the $49 level to fill this gap after it had gapped down on that news. And we caught it a couple of times over 49. Now resistance is definitely at $50, but it looks like it's curling back over, right? So it's rejecting right now off of 50. So I don't see a trade here on DKNG until it breaks over $50. Just set your alert there and set it on the back burner. When you get an alert, or when this is trading at 49.8, when it's getting close to 50, then put it back on your radar. But until it breaks over 50, I don't see a trade there. Bruce is asking, do I feel that the market crash from last week will affect trades this week? Yeah, definitely. Any type of overall market news will always affect trades, but this is the thing. There's something that's always going up. Well, I shouldn't use the word always. There is most likely something that will be moving up against the market, right? Showing relative strength, something moving on news. That's why my focus, given the market, right, let's look at /ES. Given this move down, you would think that every stock that we would be looking at would be red, right? But what did I say? We're going to focus on stocks that are showing relative strength. So Airbnb was green, right? Roku was one that was big green, moving on news. Tesla was green, right? PayPal, moving on news. That one was green. AMD, that news is still fresh. It was green. So these stocks are still showing relative strength. And if we're looking at, let me just move to the weekly chart on SPY. Even during the COVID period, you're thinking like everything's coming down. It's all red, like the whole market's being affected. Yes, that's true. But then look at stocks like Zoom during that period. They flourished, right? Or DocuSign. Or APT, like these stocks were going off when the whole market was coming down. So what I like about when the market's red like this, as a long bias trader, you have a smaller pool of stocks to choose from that are actually going green and showing relative strength, which means all of these other traders that are also long bias traders that might be watching 50 stocks are now down to watching 3 or 4, which means that you have higher conviction in those 3 or 4 stocks given that the catalyst is valid for them to move up than you would on any other normal day. Does that make sense? So more people watching the same stock equals higher conviction. But to answer your question, yes, I think that if the market continues to sell off, we're going to see a lot of stocks follow suit with that. Great question. Thank you for asking. Jamal's asking about NEO, saying that it's a bull pennant on the daily. I don't see the pennant pattern here that you're talking about. I mean, what I see is an upward channel. I don't see any sort of bull pennant. So a pennant to me needs to look something like this: a series of lower highs and a series of higher lows following an uptrend, right? So given where it's currently trading at, I just don't see where, how we can have lower highs here. Does that make sense? So if anything, to me, this just looks like an upward channel that it's been trading in. And that's what I kind of got here. We're getting close to the $50 level of resistance though. That whole number, It's been resistance in the past. You see that here. We're kind of nearing that price point. So as we're getting closer to this price point, what I'm starting to think about NEO is this: your reward to the top side from where it's at, so from 48.3 to 50, that reward is very slim compared to, since we're in an uptrend, how much room we have to come back down to the next support area. So from where we're at, 47 down to 43 is greater than the move up to 50. You got to consider the risk to reward there. I don't think I will be, as long as NEO is continuing to grind up, I won't be touching NEO until it breaks over 50. Now, if we get a pullback down to 43 and we start to see some support being built there and then a curl back up, I can look at taking a trade around 44, 45, 46. But given where it's at now, I just don't see the reward between here and $50. Over $50, I see it, but not until it breaks over. So set your alerts at 50 and wait for that to kind of give you the setup. Let the setups come to you. You don't go to them. Randy's asking about Workhorse. We've already broken that one down. So if you want to see my breakdown on that, just rewatch the stream. It'll be up for the next 24 hours. A couple of people are asking about PLUG. This is one that we had on radar for quite some time as it consolidated over the 200 EMA, and we were actually able to catch this bounce move up to kind of validate that breakout over the 200 EMA. But then since then, it's just sold off. Since it has earnings this week, I don't know where it goes, and I feel like any sort of technical analysis done on PLUG, it won't matter. Fundamentals will always take precedence over technicals. So I could say that this is looking like, whatever, a massive bull flag here all day. But when that report comes out, it won't matter what the bull flag is. It's going to matter what that report says. So doing any type of technical analysis here feels like a waste of time. My suggestion would be to just wait until earnings and see what it does, right? See what type of move that occurs following earnings and then play the direction. Or play against the direction if it decides to fill the gap. All right, let's talk about BLNK. Mitch is asking, oh no, Dre's asking about that. Lots of chop here, lots of consolidation. This almost looks like a range to me. You have very clear support around the $38 price point, very clear resistance around $42. There's your range. So I would set an alert above 42, and I would set an alert below 38 and play the break of the range, whatever way it decides to go, right? So just wait for this to give you direction on a breakout move from here and play the trend. Ranges are some of the easiest trades to take. You could trade it within the range, but I would just rather wait on direction. As an options day trader, you don't want to be trading in chop. You want to be trading when there's momentum, and conviction to either side. I don't think the contracts are very good on BLNK anyways. I could be wrong, but... SQ. So this one, I actually debated on putting SQ on our watch list for tomorrow, but I decided against it once I saw where it was currently trading at, which is kind of like this midpoint, this resistance point at $240. So what I did was just set an alert slightly over, and I set my alert where it's located at 240, right around 242, to accommodate for this kind of fake out move right here that happened. So this was like just enough at the time to fill this little gap, and then it got rejected and came right back down. So I want to make sure that it gets over this price point and doesn't reject there before I decide to take a position on it. Right, so that's just set it at 242, we'll make it easy. All right, let's do, we already did Neo Sports Center, so we'll do two more. I haven't charted these, so it might be fun. MTCH, okay, and somebody said BMBL. Oh, Bumble, huh? Okay. All right, let's do MTCH. This actually looks pretty legit. all right, right off the bat, I see some sort of breakout here on higher volume. So I would be curious to know, like, is this news? It looks like news to me, given the volume here, and then given the kind of larger move. I would assume that that's a news breakout. But I don't know for sure, right? So here would be like your downtrend. This almost looks like, well, that's definitely your support, but it almost looks like you had a little bit of an uptrend there. So kind of like this pennant pattern here that was shaping up. It looks as if it's breaking over. It pushed over the $150 price point, which would be your whole number. That looks good. I would look for 150 from here. I would look for 150 to continue to validate as support. All right. So we're going to look at 150 to validate as support. It was actually previously a resistance. Your next resistance from where you are at currently looks like 157, and then above that 160. So you have two price points that are really relevant to where you're, to where you're currently trading at. 150, 160, right? Above 160, this would really be interesting because that's when it seems like the momentum comes in. So I would really be watching this over 160. Let's look at your profit margin, because if you were to take this long as a continuation play from where it's at, you need to decide, is there enough profit margin from here up to the resistance? So let's just say you took it long over like 155. You have a 1.69% profit margin there. You got to decide if that's enough for you or not. Typically, I aim for about a 2% profit margin. I mean, there's nothing saying that it will reject right there at that price point, but understandably, it is a resistance point and it's moving. It moved up fairly quickly. So anytime you get an extended move towards a resistance point or near a resistance point without any sort of pullback, you get the pullback at the resistance point. Just logically, it makes sense. It is why it is a resistance point. So I would be careful or mindful of like whatever that is, 158 as a resistance. I would really be watching it over 160 because if it prints a higher high over this price point here, you might really be in an uptrend. Although it looks like it's kind of starting that uptrend already. So support to hold at 150. Look for a break over 155, 156 area. Resistance at 158, and again at 160. Last one is BMBL. This looks like a pennant pattern to me, shaping up at the $50 whole number. And underneath the 50 EMA, I would just set an alert at $52. A break over 52 would give you three things. It would give you a breakout of this pennant pattern. It would give you a break over the $50 whole number, and it would give you a break over the 50 EMA. That would confirm your top side move. So there is a trade here actually between 51 and 52, because percentage wise you're looking at right at 2%, and I literally just said that's what I aim for my profit margins. But just know that if you take it over 51, there is likely resistance at 52. Over 52, you're going to have less resistance to the top side. I think probably up to these lows right here. So 55 would be your next level of resistance over where it's over the $52 price point. There is a minor gap here too. It's not super relevant, but it is there between 52.2 up to 53. So that would be my breakdown here. The safer entry would be along over 52. The more risky entry would be over 51, but it absolutely needs to hold up over 50 to even remain relevant at all. Great. Thank you all for attending the stream. If I didn't get to your call out, I apologize. You can always just shoot me a DM and I'll give you my thoughts on it there. There's this one thing that I want to talk to you about actually. There are a lot of these fake trading accounts on Instagram that have been mimicking a lot of traders that I know. And they've been DMing those traders, those pages followers, and asking for their trading account information to trade for them, and they've been asking for Bitcoin, and they've been asking for I don't know what else they asked for. But just be smart, right? I will never message you first on a platform like that. Anybody with a large following, you just don't have time to message people first. Um, so our time is spent primarily answering messages and not like sending brand new messages out. We get enough messages as it is. So if somebody messages you first asking for any personal information, like it's probably a scam account, especially if they don't post any stories on their account or they've got like, these pictures that aren't perfectly lined up. Be smart about it, right? Just report those pages. Those scammers block the original pages, like the original content creators. So those pages that are imitating me on Instagram, they have me all blocked. So I've tried to report them. I've gotten on different accounts. I've had all of my followers report them. I don't know what the deal is. Instagram won't take their pages down and they won't give me a blue check for verification. So I don't know what to do other than to tell you to be smart and just, ignore those pages, block them, report them, etc. That's it. Just be smart online. Don't give out any personal information. All right. I'll never ask you for any of that stuff. Thank you guys and girls for being here tonight. Thank you for your time. Let's make some money tomorrow. I will see you all in chat. Have a great rest of your weekend and a great rest of your Father's Day. All right. See you tomorrow.